Alright, we got our tool on here. So now what I need to do is turn this clockwise. Once I get tension on it, then I can remove this drill bit, and then I'm going to rotate it clockwise until I don't know what. But supposedly that's how you get the thrust off of the valves. So I don't know if there's going to be a click or a, maybe it'll just loosen up. That's what I'm about to find out. Maybe you can see everything from there. Alright, so ooh. Okay. Huh. That's not what I was expecting. It's loose. Is that it? Okay. Alright, that did not seem right, but doesn't feel like there's any force on the camshaft now, so I don't know, maybe we didn't screw something up. Okay, so I figured out what happened. If you use the Aprilia tool, it uses a hex out here, and they tell you in the manual to use a wrench. I wasn't thinking, so whenever I used my ratchet, obviously once it started to go over, there's nothing to stop it. It would just, so lesson learned. I'm not going to go over this. I'll go over this in a separate video to kind of show you what I did. But anyways, now the valve thrust is off of it. You can remove the pin on the exhaust cam. And now there are 10 bolts up here holding the top of the tower down. After I pull those out, I should be able to pull the camshafts out. And then I'll want to keep up with which one's which, because they're specific. The intake cam has to go back on the intake. I'm just going through and loosening these up right now. They're not overly tight. They feel like they were torqued, so shouldn't be that hard to get them took off. Okay, I got all 10 of the bolts out, so now this should, it's loose. Yep. All right, it comes off. There's your valves. Just a note, I'm gonna put some gloves on before I touch these things, because the grease that they use on the camshaft and the bucket valves, I've got a tube of it in the house right now, and it's like an irritant, so it's definitely not something I'd want to get on my skin. So, all right, yeah, we're fixing to pull. We'll pull the intake cam out first. So I'll bring you back whenever I do that. Not that it's relevant right now, but as you can see on the camshaft tower, each bolt is numbered. So whenever this thing goes back on, I believe there's a specific sequence you got to tighten it in. So that's nice that they did that. Just putting those numbers in the casting, that adds some money to the die. And I think it's recommended to do one camshaft at a time, but if you wanted to pull both of them out, you just want to make sure that you zip tie up your timing chain so that it doesn't fuck off down into the engine. All right, camshafts are out. They're sitting over here on my toolbox. I put the intake on my little chart with the intake and the exhaust one with the exhaust so I don't get those mixed up. Now we have to start pulling the buckets out and the shims. And what we need to do is we need to make sure that when we pull the one out, say for this right here, the exhaust on cylinder 1, we want to make sure that it goes to its corresponding part here, because whatever hole it comes out of is the hole that it needs to go back into during reassembly. I don't want to start flipping E1 and E2 and I1 and I4. And to pull them out, we're just going to use a magnet. There's the bucket. And that may be the shim under it. Maybe it come out with it, so keep an eye out for that. I'll make sure there's nothing else in there though. Alright, all 8 buckets and all 8 shims have been retrieved. So we'll go through, just kind of wipe everything off, and then I'll get my calipers and start measuring the shims. Alright, got all the shims out, buckets. I found this sheet. There was a guy on ADV Rider who come up with this, so I just copied it and printed it out. I hope it works for my bike. This is for a 2022 and mine's a 2023, but I think it should be okay. I hope. So yeah, I got my measurements. I printed off a second sheet, and this one, because I'm gonna have to order the valves, they're all in metric. So I went back and redid all my numbers. Like here, I don't know why I used the imperial number, but I went back and fixed that. So now I'm gonna go in the house, I'm gonna do some maths and figure out what shims I need to order from AF1.